When friends and family come to visit these days, it is becoming more and more the norm that they ask for your username and password for your Wi-Fi. So today we are going to make a sign out of a Dollar Tree plaque that is just adorable in the end and gives everybody the information they're looking for. I picked up this sign at Dollar Tree because I love the shape of it. I don't like the design and I absolutely hate the glitter on it, so what I'm going to do is I am going to sand all the glitter off of the sign and then I am going to paint it a simple basic white. Now that I have the glitter sanded down, I'm going to go ahead and do a couple coats on the front of the sign just to give it a nice clean look, even though this will turn into the back. I don't want it to be glaringly apparent that it's a Dollar Tree item when I'm done with the piece if it's taken down off the wall for any reason. For the front of the sign, which is going to be a faux wood grain board look, what I'll be using is 3 shades of brown. This first one is the medium shade of brown, and I will be giving the board a couple coats of this medium brown and letting it dry in between coats. Next, I'll be taking a dry, stiff bristle brush and using my light brown, I will be very lightly going back and forth over the board in the same direction I will want my planking lines to go. And you can see just how lightly I'm touching this. I'm barely getting any of the paint on the boards as I'm going across. I'm wiping off a lot of extra paint as I'm going. Now that splotch there on the right side, about 1/3 of the way down, I'm not really worried about. That's really not going to be important in the end. The important part is that we have this dry, streaky look going back and forth across the boards. So I'm just going to keep working on this until it is covered to my liking, and then we'll be moving on to the next step. After your paint is completely dry, it's time to draw the lines for the planks on the board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay a ruler out and start right about in the middle. And you want to use a Sharpie or any type of pigment marker that you have. And you just want to go and draw your lines down the board. Right, so there we go. We have one plank drawn in, and what I'm going to do is just work across my board, and I am drawing down because I feel I have better control this way. And you just want to mark out your planks, and it's really easy just going on either side of the ruler here. Looks like this needs to be gone over one more time. Okay, there we go. And now we have instant boards. It's really just that simple. It's not
You can't tell, even looking really close, that it's not really planks. Of course, it is just a thin piece that's decorative. Now, I thought for quite a while how I wanted to get the letters onto my sign, but I decided, since it's going to be quite a wordy sign, that I was going to go ahead and use my Silhouette Cameo to design and cut out the wording that I wanted to use. Now, if you don't have a Cameo and you know a friend who does, you can ask them to cut out the lettering for you. If you don't know anyone that has a Cameo, you can go ahead and trace the lettering onto a sheet of contact paper, and this is just a scrap of contact paper I picked up at the Dollar Tree that I used. And then if you trace it, you just need to be sure you carefully cut it out so that you can use the main sheet, the full-size sheet, as your stencil, because we are going to paint the letters on. If you use the Cameo, of course, you're going to have to use your weeding tool and go ahead and pull those letters off. So that's going to be what we're going to go ahead and do right now. Now that I have my lettering cut out, what I'm going to do is take the stencil that I've made and lay it over the board. Now I want to try to get it centered beforehand, about where I want it to be. So I just need to play with it a little bit till I have the lettering pretty much centered on the board. And to do that, I am going to kind of mark with my fingernails where the tops are. Okay, and it looks like that's probably pretty close to where I want it. So I am going to take a permanent marker just kind of mark, oops, along the edge here. Okay, and I don't have to worry about that being super neat because it's not going to show on the finished project. And I am just going to cut that as a general guide for the placement on the top of the sign. Okay, as you can see, as I start placing it, that will give me an idea where I need to start that. So what I'm going to do is, starting at the very top here, I'm going to peel off just this very top layer. Kind of fold that under as I get this placement. Then I'm going to pull carefully down.
Now that we have the basic stencil in place, what we're going to need to do is pull off all these little pieces that remain behind for the center of the letters and put those into place.
Now that I have all the center pieces on and all my little letters, I am going to use some Mod Podge to get nice, crisp, clean lines since these letters are so small. And this is the key to having no bleeding on your sign, or very little bleeding, I should say. I can't guarantee none. But I'm going to take just a little bit of Mod Podge. That's probably more than I even need right there. And I'm going to add just a bit of water to it. I'm going to get that stirred up because I want this to be a little bit thin. There we go, that looks good. All right, and now I'm just going to take a brush I'm going to go over all the letters with the Mod Podge, and then we're going to let this dry. It will only take a moment to dry. We're just putting on a really thin coat. My Mod Podge is dry now, so I'm going to go ahead and use some of the vintage white paint I have to go ahead and go over all the lettering. And I didn't want to use a stark white. I wanted to use something with just a little bit lighter of a color because I felt that the stark white would be a little much on the old wood paint that we've done. If just a plain white is what you have, by all means, you can use it. I'm sure it will still come out just fine. Okay, but we are going to go in and just color or paint over all the letters now. I've put 3 coats of my vintage white paint onto my board and let it dry. Now we're going to peel it back and see how the board looks. I'm a little bit nervous with as small as some of the lettering was, but here we go. And I'm just cutting some of it off because I don't want to have to deal with big pieces of sticky stuff as I'm working along. Okay, I would say overall, I think it's looking really good. There is a little bit of places where the paint did run through. I probably should have done 2 coats of the Mod Podge. I was just a little bit nervous as to how well it would seal with the smaller letters. But it looks like everything worked out really pretty well. Just got to get these center pieces out here. Here's my finished sign. I went back in with a sharp tool and I just kind of scratched and cleaned up any of the places where the paint kind of ran out from under my stencil. It actually wasn't too bad. It wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it would be. But we are now ready to put the twine on it to hang the sign with. So what I'm going to do with the 2 holes that the ribbon were removed from is I'm going to get this twine through there. And I'm just going to, again, use my sharp pokey tool, and I'm going to push that down through there. Maybe. That might be too sharp. It's just poking through it. I'll grab another tool that I have handy here. Start working that through. And I'm going to do the same thing here on the other side. Okay, and for this little one that didn't absolutely want to go through, I just dipped it in a little bit of my leftover Mod Podge. Kind of tighten it up and see if that will help get it through there. And there you go. going to try to bring these around so they're about even. Okay, there we go. And I am just going to tie a little bow here at the top. Okay, and there we go. We have our finished Wi-Fi sign. So now I'm going to go hang it up on the wall and we will see how it looks.